Welcome back to Recap and React with Candace, where I discuss some of my favorite TV shows or films or anything else TV related that I want to discuss. Today, we'll be discussing the latest episode of Survivor, which was not a good episode for me. It was a good episode overall, just my girl went home, but we'll get into that. So, we'll be discussing Survivor season 47, episode 3, Belly of the Beast. So, where we left off on episode 2, TK was voted out by the Blue Tribe at the last tribal. Kyle was completely blindsided. So, what they always do, we pick up where Blue Tribe stands post tribal. Gabe says he played his idol after watching so many people go home with the idol in their pocket last season. I don't think anyone was ever even thinking about voting out Gabe, so he just wasted his idol, honestly. Kyle says he had a feeling that the votes would go that way, but he still took a chance voting with TK and throwing a vote on Sue. But he could kind of tell based off of how Tiana was kind of behaving after they lost the immunity challenge, based on TK's actions and how he talked about her. So then we get that Sue is holding a grudge against Kyle, and she's just kind of like, you voted for me and I'm not going to remember that. So then we get the next day, because I'm going to basically just go tribal by tribal pre-journey, basically. So the next day we get Sue's still holding this grudge. I honestly don't think, like, she thinks that TK and Kyle wanted her out. It almost feels like she's trying to say just because she's like an older woman. I don't know that that necessarily was it. We saw like clearly her and TK just were never on the same page. I don't think it was like a stereotype thing. Personally, I don't know like all the ins and outs. We're not there, but it just seems like they just never were gonna be on. They were never gonna really be able to work together. I don't think it had to do with her being a woman, just personally. But also, I'm not out there. Maybe she had a different experience that we're just not seeing fully in the show, in the episodes. So then we get Gabe. He wants to pull in Kyle now. Now he wants to work with Kyle. He wants to keep him in the game. And he's basically saying, because Kyle shows that he's loyal to a fault. Like, he had a feeling that TK was going to get voted out, but he still voted for Sue out of loyalty. So Gabe is like, that's a good thing to have in this game, like someone that will be blindly loyal to you like that. And so he goes to Kyle, and he's pitching voting out Tiana at the next tribal. And Kyle goes along with it, but Kyle is kind of like, in his confessionals, he's basically like, I'm not voting Tiana out. Like, I don't want to vote Tiana out. I already lost TK. I can't lose Tiana as well. So then he decides that he's going to talk to the girls and let them know. He's letting Sue and Caroline know that Gabe told him that they are goats for him. Basically, he just takes them to the end so he can beat them, which he did say in his confessional, but I don't think we ever saw him say that on camera to Kyle or anybody else. So I don't know if Kyle just made this up and it just happened to be right or what. But Sue's reaction is, she's like, she ain't trying to hear it. She's basically, she doesn't say this to him, but in confessional, she's kind of like, you wrote my name down. I'm not trying to hear that, basically. But she does tell him she's not trying to hear that because she wants to be in the right mindset for the immunity challenge or whatever. But it's more so like, you wrote my name down. My target now is you. I don't really care about this other stuff. Like, you're my target. And I can't really blame Sue, because it's like, now that he's written her name down, it's easy to keep writing her name down. It's like, once someone votes for you once, it's easy to just start throwing votes on you. And so you don't want that, because then you become the easy vote. So I don't really blame her. Then we get caught up with the Yellow Tribe. So Annika and Rachel, they've been struggling to sleep on this shelter. They're like, it's so uncomfortable. The bamboo's so uncomfortable. So they wake up, they keep complaining. Sam is like, why are you complaining? It's Survivor. Like, it's not meant to be comfortable. It's not going to be comfortable. And I kind of understood where Sam was coming from, but Annika and Rachel, they just insist like, we need to fix the shelter. But Sam's like, we just got this fishing gear. We need to go fish. Like, we need food. But they just keep insisting like, we need to fix the shelter or whatever. You could tell that Sam is just getting very annoyed with Annika at this point. And can you really blame him? Like, she does come off really pushy, honestly. She wants, like, they're working on a clothesline or something, and she just keeps like dictating to him like what to do and what not doing it. Then some of the stuff is like, well, why couldn't somebody else just do that? Like when they were cutting the rope or whatever to like to tie off the clothesline, and he at this point he's fed up and he's just like hacking at the string or whatever it is. I don't know if it was a vine or something. And then she's like, well, when we were doing it earlier, it did better if we tried to slice it instead of just hacking at it, basically, or whatever. And he's like, oh, okay. And he does it and it cuts like almost immediately. So it's not that she's wrong, but it's just like I need her to do better at reading the room with Sam. He's not feeling her right now at all. So Andy sees this as an opportunity since there's tension between Sam and Annika. It's like, okay, this is an opportunity for me to get in with the group. And I agree. This is an opportunity for that. So I'm kind of excited to see how Andy can navigate this. We do see him have a conversation with Sierra later on, saying that he wants to work with Sam and Sierra. And he even offers her his shot in the dark. It's like, I'll let you hold on to my shot in the dark just to build, so like I'm voting with you guys. I'm not like risking my vote with the shot in the dark. I plan to vote and I'm with you guys. And Sierra seems like receptive to this. It seems like she's like, oh, okay, like maybe I can trust Andy at this point. We do get another little scene of the Yellow Tribe, and it's kind of Sam basically is a picky eater. He eats like a 5-year old. Like he hasn't eaten a lot of stuff like watermelon, zucchini, just all kinds of foods. It's like he is the guy, which I used to be this person until I met this husband, but he's the guy that goes to the restaurant and he orders chicken fingers and fries or steak and potatoes. And I hadn't like had a lot of different types of foods until I met like my husband and like his family. They eat a lot of like they introduced me to a lot of different foods like lamb chops and all kinds of different stuff that I'd never had before. So I feel Sam a little bit, but I need him to just kind of like diversify his palate just a little bit. So now let's go on to the Red Tribe. So Rome is still talking about itself. He's talking about himself all the time. He's getting on, it seems he's getting on everybody's nerves. But now I wonder if that's just what the producers chose to show or the editors, because like the more I think about it, looking at how everything played out at the end of the episode, I wonder if just Asia was just complaining about Rome a lot, which Asia's my girl. But now it makes you wonder, like, maybe she was just complaining about him a lot and they wanted to make it seem like everyone else had this big issue with him. I don't know. I can't tell because it seems like everybody else minus Asia and Saul were like working with Rome. I don't know. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So basically he wants to go fishing. I think they got the second biggest fishing gear. So they got like the mini one. And so he wants to go fishing. He's trying to tell everybody how to fish, like he knows what he's doing. And Genevieve says, "Oh, let me try it." He basically discourages her from trying, saying something about the tide or there's a rip tide or something. And it's so like, are you the only one that's allowed to try to fish? So then he does that. He wants nobody else to use the fishing equipment, but then has the nerve to complain that nobody else is doing anything. And it's like, well, you've made it very clear that you want to do everything. You want to build the fire. You want to do the fishing. Like, you didn't leave room for anybody else to do anything. So everybody else just went and just hung out in the water. And so then he complains about, oh, nobody went and got the pot for me. You would think like I'm doing all this fishing that somebody would got the pot. But it's like they wanted to try the fishing too, but you shut them down, Rome. So like what do you want them to do? So he ends up catching like 4 small fish. And then he decides to eat 2 out of the 4 fish for himself and leave the rest of them, which they're the only tribe at this point that haven't lost any members. So 5 people to share 2 small fish. Like, I don't get this man. I don't. And so then And then he gives the least amount to Asia and like has her like, and then I don't know if he spit on her. I couldn't tell. She said that at least he did spit the bone or whatever in her direction, which I don't like that. We don't do that. We don't do that. So I'm not a fan of Rome if it wasn't already obvious. He's very obnoxious. He's giving very Russell. I don't know what season of Survivor that was, but he's giving Russell a little bit to me, and I don't like it because and then I just don't understand why is he so like what is his issue with Asia? Because it seems like he's so upset with Asia, but it's like nobody else helped him either. So I'm just trying to understand where this issue with Asia stems from. I'm just very confused. So then we see boats that are starting to show up at each camp. Or so basically they every tribe needs to pick one person to go on the journey. So blue picks Kyle. I don't know. I can't remember how they all picked. I know yellow picked Annika, and then red, Roman saw at least what they showed. Those two were the ones doing rock paper scissors. Rome won, so he got to go. And that was like that's the worst case scenario because he already has an idol, but like they're not supposed to know he has the idol, so they don't know that he shouldn't go on the journey. You know what I mean? The only people that know about the idol at this point that we know of are Teeny and Kashan. So then Rome, like they're all kind of the three that go on that go to the journey. They're all kind of like giving a little bit of tidbit here and there about their tribe. Rome tries to make it seem like Saul and Asia are running the tribe, and I'm just like, why are you lying? You know, like I get it. It's good gameplay. I need to try to be unbiased, especially since my girl ain't there. I get why he's lying, but it's gonna like if they go to tribal before the merge or before a tribe swap, it's going to be very clear that he lied about where they stand because it's clear that Rome kind of has the numbers at this point. And then Kyle lets them know what like who went home on their tribe and everybody's like, I hope it well, I think it was Rome was like, I hope it was TK or whatever. And he lets them know, yeah, it was TK. And Rome was like, oh yes, because he was just so obnoxious. I didn't like him. He just thought he was all that or something. It's like Rome, pot meat kettle, Rome, pot meat kettle at this point because look at yourself, you know, like it was like you was looking in the mirror then, sir. But anyways, then they start talking about Sam and Sierra and basically they're like, are they together or like is that a love situation, or showmance? And they're and Annika, she's like, no, they're both in relationships. They're both engaged or something like that. So they're like, oh, okay. It was like we all thought they were together, which I thought they were. It was like a little brewing thing, kind of like a D and Austin or something too, but apparently not. So then they get to the sign, and so basically what it says is that each person, choose a path. So there's three paths. So they at that point they separate. So they get to the station, and it basically says there's a bag. There's three packages in the bag. You choose one package out the bag. If you pull a lose your vote, you lose your vote for the next tribal council. If you pull an advantage, you get the advantage. Now, if you pull the lose your vote, you can pull again, right? And if you get the advantage, I think you get your vote back and you get the advantage. So like you don't lose a vote at all anymore. Or if you pull a second lose your vote, you lose your vote for the next two tribal councils. All right. So they show Kyle first. Kyle pulls and he gets a lose your vote. He decides, like, I'm already at the bottom. I can't afford to lose multiple votes. So I'm just going to take my lose your vote. I don't know if that was the right move for Kyle because, like, I think he's at the bottom. So I don't know that his vote matters unless he plans on playing his shot in the dark, which he can't even play it at the next tribal council. And that's when he would probably go home if he's going to go home. So I would have pulled again, but I'm also like a math person. So I would have did the odds and like, you have basically like you have a 1/3 chance of pulling the advantage the first time. And then the second time you have a 50% chance. So I don't want to get all into the numbers, but basically like starting the game, you have a 67% chance of getting advantage. So like I don't care if I get to lose your vote the first time, I'm gonna go and pull again. You know what I mean? The odds are in your favor. So then Annika, similar thing, she pulls, she gets to lose your vote, and she decides, okay, I can't lose multiple votes, so I'm gonna just take the one lose your vote. And again, I'm like, girl, you are now this one, it's like the opposite, but it works too because she's at the top of the tribe, at least for now. If she can stop like being so bossy with Sam a little bit, but like, so you can afford to lose a vote because like is you have your three girls and Sam, and then Andy's just like on the side, you know, he's the easy vote, next vote if y'all have to. So I don't know. I feel like I still, even in Annika's position, I would have tried one more time to see if I could get an advantage. So then it's Rome's turn. This lucky man, he pulls from the bag and he gets the advantage. I knew as soon as I saw all the words on the paper, I was like, he got the advantage. And so his advantage is he has a still a vote. So he can still, one member of his tribes, vote at tribal council. I didn't see how long it was good for. I'm assuming it's probably good to like final five. That's usually like idols are usually good till final five. So that's what I'm gonna assume. So he got the advantage. So now we get into the post journey like camps or whatever. So Annika, she's telling everybody about what Rome and Kyle asked about Sam and Sierra at Yellow Tribe, and they're kind of Sierra is like, what? Sam is kind of like they don't want to be associated together too much because then when they're tribe swap or merge, like they could be targeted because they have a close relationship. Kyle tells the Blue Tribe that same Sam and Sierra information. He lets them know that he lost his vote. Like he's upfront, like I lost my vote. Okay. Annika, she lies in front of Andy. Like she lies in front of everybody basically initially because she doesn't want Andy to know that she doesn't have a vote. But then when she gets away from like Andy and it's just her and the other two girls, Sierra and Rachel, she lets them know I lost my vote. I just didn't want Andy to know. They're like, okay. So then Rome, he lies, which I figured he was, and he says that he lost his vote. But it's like, if they didn't know at tribal, they definitely know now after tribal that you didn't lose your vote. So they know you got something. Like it was just a stupid lie. Like I would have like lied and said they did like the risk your vote or thing or something. You know what I mean? I don't know. But anyways, Teeny peeps that Rome is more than likely lying. So when they get off by themselves, she asks him, and he's like, "You think I went out there and didn't come back with something? I gotta still a vote." So that at this point, Teeny has jumped ship from my girl Asia. She's like, "Rome has too many advantages. I can't compete with that. I can't take him out. So it's like you can't beat him, join him." I could tell at this point she was not gonna be riding with Asia. All right, so now we get to the immunity challenge. So here's the challenge. There is a water challenge this time. So basically, one member has to climb to the top of a tower. They leap in the ocean. They climb up a set of crates, and then they go back into the ocean. They retrieve a key underwater, and then they have to go across a balance beam, swim to the finish, and then everyone else after that on each team goes in pairs because you have 5 people compete. So it's 1, 2, and 2. So then the pairs, they on the balance beam, they retrieve their key there. They have to untie a bunch of knots on the balance beam. They can't touch the water. If they touch the water on the beam, they have to go back to the start of the beam. And so that's kind of what it is. And then those keys get you your puzzle pieces, and they have to create one of those like standing puzzles, and it's a seahorse. So the reward for this immunity challenge is a tarp and hammocks for first place, and then the second place gets like a smaller tarp, and obviously third place loses their flint and goes to tribal council. So we found out Kashan just learned how to swim 4 months ago, and for some reason he is not sitting out of this challenge. So I didn't understand that. I don't know if Genevieve is a good swimmer or not, but it just didn't sound like a good idea, I guess. Rome, like, so they're trying to strategize before the challenge. And Rome, let's start with Rome. I was going to talk about Andy, but we'll start with Rome. Rome is basically arguing with Saul. Saul's like, I want to go first. Rome's like, no, no, I need to go first because then if you mess it up, then I'm gonna be upset and say that I should have went first. So I just need to go first. I just need to go first. And then eventually Saul's like, whatever, you can go first. Andy feels confident about going first. He thinks he could be good at all the parts in the challenge. And so Yellow agrees that Andy goes first. And then he's saying, I think the two worst people should go together, I guess, so they don't slow, which is kind of smart, so they don't slow down like the faster people. So I was like, okay, that makes sense. I don't remember what Blue's strategy was. So, anyways, so Kyle, Rome, and Andy, they're all going first by themselves. Kyle and Rome did pretty good. Like they did amazing. I can't remember. I want to say that Kyle got to the platform first, but I can't remember. Andy, he was really, really struggling. Andy was struggling really badly. It was, I think he mostly struggled on the balance beam, which a lot of people did struggle with. But yeah, he struggled badly. So he was pretty far behind by the time he got to the platform. So then we get Kashan and Asia. They were really struggling with the knots because, which I don't really blame them. It was really tricky, like, because you had to kind of like crawl down onto the beam in order to untie the knots. So they were really struggling. And Red ends up falling to last place. Um, so Yellow caught up with them. Blue took a big lead. And then we have Teeny and Saul. They go last for Red, and they are struggling too. So Red just all around struggled on the beam. Blue had, so with the puzzles, Blue got there first, I believe, then Yellow, then Red. Blue had Caroline and Gabe on the puzzle. Yellow had Rachel and Annika, and then Red had Asia and Kashan. And it was just not even close. It was Yellow first, Blue second, and then Red didn't even really have hardly any of the puzzle together. So Red is going to tribal. And we still see Rome lying about having a vote at the end of the immunity challenge. So pre-tribal, it's really awkward among the group, really. Teeny's number one, I guess, is Kashan. I really wanted her to work with Asia, but it is what it is. They are both leaning more toward working with Rome and Genevieve just because Rome has those advantages. Honestly, I think they like Asia as a person better, and she's more of a strategist, but they don't have anything to compete with Rome's advantages at this point in the game. So Rome comes to, well, actually, Asia wants to target Rome, we see, but she has a feeling that he has something. So she wants to go for Genevieve instead. We get that, I think, in a confessional. So then we get Rome. He wants to vote out Asia, but Teeny is starting to push the vote towards Saul because she does want to keep Asia. She's a fan of Asia's from Rob Has a Podcast. So she's just kind of like convincing him that Saul's the way to go. Rome actually starts to like agree with Teeny, and he feels like Teeny's making some sense there. So he goes to Saul and he's trying to just convince Saul that like, oh, it's gonna be Asia, basically, so Saul won't play his shot in the dark. That's what they're trying to do. Rome is telling Saul all this stuff, but Saul is seeing right through it basically, and he says as much to Rome, and Rome is trying to like deflect, but he ain't with it. So then Kashan, and Teeny, they're talking with Genevieve, and Rome comes over and he's like, yeah, I convinced Saul. Like, Saul is not thinking it's him at all, which that's not true. Like, Saul was on him, but whatever. So then Kashan and Teeny decide to loop Asia in, and they're basically telling her, look, Rome has an idol. It's only good for this tribal council. We don't know if he's going to play it on Genevieve or on himself. So let's vote out Saul. Like, I think that's the safest bet. And Asia doesn't want to vote out Saul. She's like, I don't want to vote him out. Why don't we go for Genevieve? Or we could split the vote on Rome and force him to play his idol on himself. And they don't like Asia's response. They're like, her giving us pushback, that just shows like that she might be tough to work with or something. But it's like, y'all ain't really considering her option either. So it's just like a double standard, in my opinion. It's like, yeah, I get she gave pushback, but did y'all really consider her option? You know what I mean? So is she just supposed to do what y'all tell her to do? Like, she's not supposed to play her own game? I don't get it. So Asia, she still wants to try to get Genevieve out, and she doesn't think it's a good idea to let her Genevieve and Rome stay in the game together because they're like a pair. And Kashawn, we see that he's basically saying that Asia's pushback rubbed him the wrong way. They go and tell Rome like Asia is not trying to vote out Saul, basically. So now we get to tribal, and it's just a little awkward. I don't know. Everybody's kind of beating around the bush a little bit. Because Sean does have like, I feel like he had a little slip up when he was saying he mentions being strong to a core four. And I'm like, okay, now Asia, like you should know, like you're not part of that core four. And I think that's when Saul and Asia realized. So they start kind of like peeking back, looking at each other and stuff. And then you see Teeny making faces at Saul, like, what are you doing and stuff. You know what I mean? And it's just like, girl, you about to vote. You didn't vote Asia, but you basically voted her out. You didn't vote to help her. You know what I mean? So then Saul and Asia, they're trying to communicate something. And I'm just hoping like maybe that was like a sign like, well, we both need to play our shot in the dark, but that's not what happens. Rome obviously plays his idol because it was only good for that tribal. And we get the votes, and it is Asia is the third person voted out of Survivor with a vote of 3-1-1-1. So there were 3 votes on Asia, 1 on Genevieve, 1 on Saul, and 1 on Rome. I feel like Teeny just voted Saul just as a throwaway vote, just to say she didn't vote for Asia because she's a fan of hers. Asia was clearly like disappointed. Even on the way out, she was just like asking, she's like, Saul, were you one of them? And he said no. So then she knew like that Kashawn had voted her out. So I think she was hurt by that. But yeah, so that is where we left off there. We see the preview, we see that Saul and Rome, they're gonna be going at it next week. I'm excited to see that. So now I have to regroup with my favorites because I don't know if I like anybody on Red. Oh, Saul. So Saul, I like on Red Tribe, but I don't think that he is positioned well. So if I'm just thinking about positioning in the game, my favorite on Red, I'm going to go with Teeny. Teeny's my favorite on Red because Rome even trusts her. Like he told her about it still a vote. We didn't see him tell Genevieve or Kashawn. Maybe he did, I don't know, but we didn't see that on camera. So I'm gonna go with Teeny on Red. On Yellow, I like Rachel, but I don't know. I feel like Sierra's kind of positioned well too. I think I'm going to stick with Rachel. I know Rachel was my pick last time. I'm going to stick with her until I see otherwise. But I'm just worried about Sierra flipping on the girls because Sam and Andy kind of built something, and Andy's building something with Sierra a little bit. So we'll see. Blue Tribe, I'm on the side of Kyle and Tiana, assuming Tiana still wants to work with him. I'm not feeling Gabe. Not really feeling Sue. Caroline, I don't mind. I like a lot of the people on Blue. Blue might be my favorite tribe right now, honestly, just in terms of personalities. So I guess everybody on Blue except Gabe. I can deal with even Sue winning. So yeah, so that's where I stand. We're gonna see what happens next week. I'm really excited for next week's episode. So we'll end this recap now, and I will talk to you guys next week. Bye.